Hey, if you care about the direction of your life and you think leadership is still important in our world, I want you to listen to this short conversation. I'm going to be summarizing about, 20 years of my own leadership journey. And I'm going to be sharing the 4 main insights that I've learned by being a leader, by working with other leaders as a pastor and now as an executive coach. And hopefully it's going to turn the frustrations you've been feeling into some fresh language. Then it's going to get you going with the right kind of preparation. And then ultimately it's going to set you up to be a prepared leader when you're in your field, not generically, but specifically your field where you need to be leading well. And then that's when you can unlock a season of acceleration. Okay, so if we haven't met yet, my name is Peter Burchfield. I'm a believer, I'm a husband, girl dad. I'm a second generation pastor. I'm a executive coach. I'm on a founder journey. And the only reason I say that is I want to relate to you and let you know that most of us are just normal people that have a lot of mental tabs open in our head. And when you look at our life story and you just kind of see this zigzag and you're like, what were you doing? What were you doing? It was just us trying to be diligent with multiple areas of our life. And so it's like, how do you map all of these goals, all of these roles into the same, week or the same month or the same year? And that's why we have to be willing to figure it out as we go. You can't perfectly dial all these decisions in. You've got to just be willing to get going, to keep growing, and you will make progress over time. But if you get stuck in this analysis paralysis, and if you are constantly triggered and stopped and roadblocked by all of the frustrations that are going to come up when you get into your leadership journey, if you try to do anything that is, beyond you, anything that's got a good value attached to it, you're going to hit opposition, you're going to hit difficulty, you're going to hit uncertainty along the way. And you can't just stop the world every time that happens because it happens so often. And if we're not careful, we'll just kind of spiral into anxiety or anger. We either implode or we explode. And then it could take days or weeks or months just to recover emotionally from the upheaval and the upset that we're talking about. And then that's going to happen again and again and again. And so we really need to build a relational support system. We need resilience, we need resourcefulness, we need the kind of the ingredients that we see in the pioneers. They were willing to just throw themselves into the unfamiliar, into the wild, and they figured it out. And they actually charted a course that others could benefit from. And that's what leaders are like in my mind. Leaders are like pioneers, and not just in the kind of historical sense, with the covered wagons. There are pioneers in technology, pioneers in education, pioneers in healthcare, pioneers in thought leadership. And we're going to need more leaders that are willing to show up in all of these new fields where the future is emerging. So that's really what I'm imagining right now is, how can I inspire and encourage people that feel a sense of calling from God to go on their own leadership journey and to become someone who can pioneer a hopeful future with others in mind. It might just be for you and your family. It might be for a community. It might be for a new company. But we're always feeling that call to go further than our comfort zone. The 4 lessons that I want to pass on to you here is, number 1, it takes a lot of humility to launch out. Sometimes we think that humility is staying low and under the radar, and that is true. There's an aspect of that, but humility is also the willingness to leave your support system and to trust the Lord, to trust God, to be your support system in an uncharted territory. I just feel there's so many people that they feel like they've run out of time, or that they're behind in some area of their life. You've got all these passions and these ideas of what's possible for your life, and it just hasn't happened yet. All of your experiences can prepare you for a redemptive story, and your story matters. And I want to just challenge you to ask yourself, like, what am I really afraid of? What do I try to really name that fear, because you have two choices. Either you're going to fear the future, or you're going to pioneer the future. And so just be honest about it, and then take that fear to God in prayer and say, I don't want this fear to be bigger than my fear of you, right? That you revere and worship him to such a degree that you're like, I can't imagine doing my life any other way than your way. So that's the first lesson, is humility. Humility is actually a big attribute for leaders that go the distance, make a difference. Humility is kind of the make or break issue in my mind when it comes to formation and wayfinding even, because there's this awesome principle and a promise in scripture where it says, if you're willing to humble yourself, then God actually gives you grace, and he empowers you to do what you couldn't do on your own. The opposite is true. If you try to, exalt yourself, as scripture says, then he actually resists the proud. In this case study or this analogy, you're like a football player, and you've got the ball, and now you're running towards your own end zone, and you've got all of these big football players on the defensive side. They're coming at you, right? They're resisting you. They're resisting your progress. You don't want that linebacker to be the Lord, okay? He's not going to be the person you want coming after you in that way. Resisting a proud heart, resisting this, just this attitude of self-sufficiency, apart from him. So anyways, I would just say, please, embrace the process that is meant to help you grow in humility, and don't shy away from it, but be thankful for it, because it's actually going to prepare you for life experiences that you can't even expect yet, and it's going to give you the staying power to really stay in the game, for the long haul. The second life principle or life lesson I'll share right here is the importance of capacity. Okay, so you might have the willingness to launch out and do something different with your life, or lead in a new way. But the thing that's actually going to speed up time for you in terms of the learning curve is your capacity. And you've got to invest in your capacity building, your skill building, so that way you don't waste the opportunity. There's a quote that I really appreciate. It says, you can see the opportunity of a lifetime, but you have to seize it in the lifetime of the opportunity. And if we do not grow our capacity and lead differently, then we're going to waste the opportunity. We're going to just spend way too much time trying to find our way instead of really creating a new way. So capacity is another aspect, another attribute of your leadership journey that's really important. It's not just your technical skills, it's also your emotional intelligence, it's your capacity to work with other people, your capacity to think outside the box, and on and on. So humility is important for your leadership journey. capacity is going to be important for your leadership journey as well. The third thing is when you are leading with other people, one of the kind things you can do for them is to bring them together with a clear strategy. And so strategy is going to be very important for your leadership journey, specifically when you are organizing people and you're mobilizing people. And without it, it's like you're just herding cats, and it creates unfortunately, a lot of dysfunction in teams and in communities. If there's not a clear sense of strategy, if you're not trying to serve and lead and grow with continuity. And so strategy is not that you've got it all figured out. Strategy is a consistent approach to the work that must be done. And when you have strategy, then you can advance your mission, your goal, your purpose. And so strategy is so important for teams to make sure that they are staying cutting edge and that they're leveraging all of their strengths into one strategy that makes sense, instead of everybody kind of struggling in their own silos. Figure out, how do we pull this whole thing together and we actually make the most impact, the most progress with a clear sense of strategy. Last lesson that I want to pass on right now is the importance of territory. Now, I'm going to shift into a metaphor. All right, so I'm not really talking about land. I'm talking more about your life. I really want to inspire people to think differently about leadership. And instead of having kind of all these layers of hierarchy, that can create just kind of some weird experiences, I want us to get a little flatter. And I want us to start thinking about branching out and going out. And this matters to me because my leadership journey is impacted by my faith journey. And Jesus gave us the Great Commission, and he said, go. He said, go out. And a lot of times we think that the key to having a really successful organization is get everybody to come. If we get everybody to come to us, then we're good. But whether you're talking about a faith community or whether you're talking about your business or maybe just your family in general, you might be able to keep people all together for a time, but eventually there's going to be a situation where everybody kind of gets cramped, right, in that space, whatever space you have. And eventually you're going to have to help people grow into people with more leadership presence and more opportunities. And the only way you can help people grow bigger on the inside is by helping them go further out into these new fields and into the future. And so territory matters for organizations. Territory matters in the sense of, how are we preparing leaders to be deployed? How are we preparing leaders to go further? How are we preparing leaders to be on mission and to be in these new fields where the future is emerging? So hopefully that makes sense. It's a metaphor, and it's about growing a network of leaders, a movement of leaders, and that's a mindset shift that I think has to happen. So what did I just describe? Well, these are going to be kind of like the 4 big ideas that I'm going to start creating videos and conversations and trainings around, helping people in the specific phase of their leadership journey that they're in. If you feel stuck, I want you to come back to this podcast, and I want you to just look for, the encouragement and the coaching that you need to keep going for it, because your leadership journey matters, and it really can grow into a thriving leadership community. I want you to take the self-assessment. It'll help you find the content that's going to speak directly to your situation. Remember, the future has so many fields waiting on you. So prepare to go there.